My ex-husband showed up at my parents' house.
I need you to pack up your stuff and leave right now.
What? Despite my loss for words, my ex-husband continued.
My wife is pregnant. Yes, your sister.
Yes, my ex-husband. He had an affair with my sister and left me 5 years ago.
I want to create a good environment for the baby. Unlike a single lady like you for the rest of my life, we can make better use of this house than you. You're infertile, so no one wants you. You know what I'm saying? Just stop thinking and get out of here.
I sighed and shook my head. I can't.
What? Oh, come on.
You don't know who lives in this house right now. Immediately after, I saw a large figure appear from behind me. My husband turned blue and started shaking.
Why?
My name is Jane. I'm an office worker who turned 35 this year. Thankful of the fact that I am seen to be well respected within the company, I'm one of those who have risen up the ladder among my peers. I'm living a good life now, but there have been twists and turns up to this point. The biggest thing that happened in the last few years was the divorce. The cause was my ex-husband's infidelity. 5 years ago, Joe, my husband at the time, eloped, and it turned out to be my own sister. She's always had a penchant for coveting my possessions, and she's very consistent on it. I'll give her that. But it was still out of the ordinary. At the time, Joe and I were co-workers. Joe was a soft-spoken, perceptive person. As a young man, I was attracted to that about Joe. Then Joe took a liking to me and we started dating. After a while of dating, I introduced Joe to my family. Since we were dating on the premise of marriage, we talked about how we wanted to make things right. I happened to be back at my parents' house at the time. The moment my sister saw Joe's face, I was so surprised that she let out a surprised voice. The reason was, my sister and Joe went to the same university, and they knew each other. After that, my sister and I and Joe often went shopping together. We had a lot of fun. We had a great time. We continued to socialize even after Joe and I were married. However, after a few times of the three of us, I began to feel more and more uncomfortable. We would get excited about topics that only Joe and my sister knew about. They started going out alone together in secret. You went out with my sister yesterday? I wish I could have gone with you.
Oh yeah, maybe some other time.
That made me kind of nervous. And then one day, I was invited to dinner by a colleague from the company where Joe and I work. I gladly accepted the invitation, but I got a shocking revelation. Joe was seen entering a hotel room, arm in arm with a woman who was not me. I asked my co-worker to describe the woman. It turned out to be my sister. I didn't want to believe it, but when my co-worker showed me a picture of her, I had to believe it. I asked my colleague to send me the photo data. I decided to question Joe that day. Hey, what's this all about?
What? No, this is...
Joe, with his simpering attitude, was moping the whole time. You've been cheating on me this whole time, haven't you? You two made fun of me, right? Did you have fun? No matter what I asked, Joe didn't say anything. He just looked down. Joe disappeared the next day. When I woke up in the morning, Joe was nowhere to be found. I didn't think it was possible. I tried to call my sister, but she was disconnected. It wasn't until 3 days later I found out that my sister and Joe were together. At the house where me and Joe were living, the divorce papers came. About the same time, I received an email from my sister. The email from my sister read, "I will be happy with Joe." Just those words. Naturally, I couldn't accept that. But I didn't know where to go to protest. I couldn't get in touch with her. Furthermore, it seems that Joe had sent his resignation letter by mail to his employer. I had no more connections in any direction. I was at my wit's end, and finally decided to divorce him. And for a while after that, I couldn't get over it. I couldn't accept the idea of my own sister and my husband eloping. I just couldn't accept it. But I couldn't stay depressed forever. So I decided to take my anger and resentment out on my work. While I was working so hard, I could forget about Joe and my sister. And it worked. I was recognized for my contribution to the company. I was given a good position. Then I was blessed with good fortune. 5 years have passed since my sister and Joe eloped. Life has been going well for me. Then one day, I had no work that day. I woke up later than usual, thinking of having my breakfast. And when I got up from the bed, I heard my phone on my bedside table. It was a phone call. I looked at the screen and saw a blocked call. Normally, I wouldn't answer it, but I answered it with all my might because I woke up from sleep. "Yes, who's calling?"
Oh, Jane, it's been a long time. Hey, it's me, Joe. I'm glad you took my call, and that you're still using this number.
To my surprise, it was my ex-husband Joe who called me. I almost slid off the bed in surprise. "What? Joe?"
Why? Why are you being so cold? Why? We were a couple once. I could at least call you.
Joe, while laughing, said what was so funny. He acted as if nothing had happened. I remembered the anger I thought I had forgotten. "What do you mean, a former couple? You've got to be kidding me. How dare you contact me just like that? What the hell do you want?"
Oh, come on. Calm down. You haven't changed a bit, have you?
His easygoing tone irritates me even more. Perhaps sensing this, Joe finally got down to business.
Well, yes. You're living at your parents' home now, right? Why don't you pack up your stuff and move out right now? Because your sister and I have decided to move into that house.
This doesn't make any sense to me at all anymore. I don't know what kind of thought processing he's going through.
We got married, actually. We recently had a baby. We want to provide a good environment for her. Of course, you wouldn't say no, would you? I'm saying this out of the kindness of my heart. If you stay at home with your parents forever, you'll never be able to remarry.
I suddenly got a headache. Please, don't be such an idiot. You're right, Joe. I'm back at my parents' house now. I don't know where the hell you got that information from, but I don't care. And of course, I would refuse. Why would I do that for you both? That I would give up my parents' house for you people? With that, Joe came back at me in a slightly harsh tone. He seemed to slightly take aback.
I'm sorry. You're 35 years old and infertile. I don't know how you can find someone to marry you.
When Joe and I were married, I never got pregnant. I'm assuming that's what he meant by infertile. That's a disgusting thing to say. Is that all you have to say? Because I will never give you this house. And saying that, I just hung up. I didn't want to talk to Joe anymore. But still, it was too selfish. He had an affair, he eloped. And now, they want to take my house too. I hope they give up now, but I don't know what will happen next. A few days passed. I was busy at work that morning. I finally took a lunch break after 2 p.m. I went to my favorite restaurant near my office. I finished my lunch. When I entered the entrance of the building to go back to the office, I saw a familiar figure. No way! How could he be here? It was Joe. He had gained so much weight over the past 5 years. but the way he stood there was unmistakably Joe. I immediately tried to hide, but before I could do so, he saw me. Joe was saying,
"Oh, finally."
He called out at me, and he came fluttering toward me.
"Oh, there you are. I waited long, you know. So, to continue our conversation from the other day, when can you leave? I'd like you to leave by next month if possible."
But I told you no to that talk. And the nerve for you coming all the way to my office. Get the hell out of here. Joe has a smile on his face, but he looks annoyed and continues to talk.
"You're talking like that again. I don't see why you, Jane, a single woman, should have to live in that house. We'd rather have it with our unborn child. Wouldn't it be better if she lived there? With her mother and father? Am I wrong?"
You're not even listening. No matter how hard I try to talk him out of it, he will eat me up. Joe kind of terrified me. You're being a little pushy, aren't you? No matter how much you ask, what you're asking is impossible. You had an affair and eloped on your own. Why can't you go live somewhere else? When I said this, Joe wrinkled his face. He raised his voice.
"You listen up. The only reason I had the affair in the first place was because you were infertile. If you had been able to give me a child, I wouldn't have had an affair. It's all your fault. So take responsibility and at least give us a place where we can live."
I can't even begin to fathom it. Saying it's my fault he had an affair? It's too much to take the blame. Are you serious right now? I've got work to do. I have to go. Joe was still trying to say something, but he finally seemed to notice the stares around him. He told me to remember that, and he left the entrance. Joe finally gave up on me. That's what I thought, but I was reminded that I was naive. A week after, Joe came to my office. After work was over. I was relaxing at home, watching TV. Suddenly, the intercom rang. I wasn't expecting anyone to come to visit, so I got up. I decided to look into the intercom monitor anyway. Standing there were Joe and my sister. I've really had enough of this. I rushed to the front door and opened it vigorously.
"Oh, Jane. Did you get your packing done? I didn't hear anything from you, so I came all the way here in person."
Wow, long time no see, sis. You heard from Joe, didn't you? We're having a baby. You know, I'll take care of it when it's born.
All I could do was to sigh in spite of all this.
What's the matter? Are you tired? Well, I don't really care anyway. But listen to me. It's great that we're having a baby, but we don't have the money. So we're going to have to live here, okay?
My sister says so with a superior look in her eyes. Joe further opens his mouth.
"Yeah, so I recently realized that this house is not yours. Are your parents home? Let me talk to them. It's your mother and father's first grandchild. I bet they'll accept us, right?"
I couldn't help but laugh when he said that. I didn't think that he didn't know about this.
What are you laughing at? You're not very nice. Hurry up and get Mom and Dad out.
Huh? Are you serious that you didn't know? Mom and Dad are gone. Yeah, my parents don't live in this house anymore. After you, Joe, and I divorced and I moved back home, they gave me this house as a tidy gift. And now they are living a retired life in the countryside on my mother's side. So I am the owner of this house. When I confronted them with this fact, both my sister and Joe's eyes widened. Understand? This house is my house, so I have the right to make all the decisions. I said it so clearly, but Joe still insists.
"Well, okay then. Jane can live in this house. Let's live together, okay? Let's be friends again, just the three of us, just like before."
Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's a great idea. You won't be alone in such a big house. It must be so lonely to live alone, right? We'll all be happy if we live together.
Another outrageous idea. I was about to argue with them. I was about to open my mouth when suddenly... Oh, honey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be so loud. Look, it's my ex-husband and my sister that I told you about. It was my now husband who approached me, and in his arms is our daughter. My husband mumbled.
I see.
He greeted Joe and my sister in confusion.
Hi. Good evening. I'm Jane's husband. This is our daughter. Isn't she cute?
Both Joe and my sister couldn't close their mouths. They must be very surprised. To tell you the truth, I have already remarried. About a year after Joe and I divorced, I met my current husband through a friend. Things went smoothly. We got married less than 6 months after we started dating. Soon after, I became pregnant with our daughter. Now I work and am a housewife at the same time. My husband helps me with housework and childcare, so I wouldn't neglect my work in our home, and I have been able to get a promotion. I think you get the idea now. There's nothing you can do. You can't take advantage of me at all. My husband, my daughter, and I, we're a family, and we get along just fine.
What is this, Jane? You're not infertile? No way, that's a lie.
Joe starts to question.
What the hell? You're my sister and you're married to someone so handsome? I can't believe you're married. It's not fair. It's not fair.
Kate began to stamp her feet as she said that. My husband looked down at her coldly and said,
That's the way it is. Please leave us alone. If you ever come near our family again, I will call the police. Is that clear?
The word police and the force of my husband's words pushed them over the edge. Joe and my sister turned blue in the face and immediately left. After that, Joe and my sister never appeared in front of me again. They were in financial trouble. They snuggled up at Joe's side of the family. But they found out about what they did 5 years ago, and they were not impressed. So they turned them down early. No wonder. And this is what I heard from a mutual friend of ours. Joe was having an affair again without fail. They are currently in the middle of a divorce. The reason for this is also surprising. As a matter of fact, my sister was never pregnant. She was lying to get back home somehow. And apparently, Joe didn't know about that she wasn't really pregnant. He was also deceived. Of course, a lie like that was easily exposed. He eloped with my sister because he wanted a child. If she wasn't pregnant, then he didn't need her anymore. Joe had been having affairs because he wants children. However, in the future, Joe will never be able to have children. The probability that Joe is infertile. I'm not a doctor, so I can't say for sure. But given the circumstances, it's extremely likely. I wonder when Joe will realize this. Or will he finally find out? Either way, it's none of my business anymore. And then one day, I received a letter from Joe at home. I was dubious, so I decided to check it with my husband just to be sure. The letter said that he went to the hospital for a checkup and was diagnosed as being incapable of having children, and that he regretted what he did. He regretted eloping with my sister 5 years ago, and that he wanted to try it with me again. Naturally, I ignored the letter. My husband tore the letter to shreds in a fit of anger. He must have given up when he didn't receive a reply, or maybe he didn't expect a reply from the beginning. I never received another letter from Joe. He was a selfish and unfulfilled man to the very end. I should just forget about such a man and live life happily. I now live with my kind and caring husband. With a kind and caring husband and a precious daughter in the prime of her life, I would do anything to preserve this happiness that I have finally found. That's what I promised myself.
From quitting work to full-time house husband, returning early to find unconscious husband, but emergency call reveals the unexpected truth.
Wait, it's really no good.
Despite my husband's attempt to quickly stand up and stop me, the side dish unexpectedly came to the rescue. With a swift motion, My husband extended his right leg and accidentally stepped on the side dishes, slamming his body onto the floor.
Ouch!
Ignoring my groaning husband, I energetically opened the door. Surprise! Well, I already knew. When I saw off the paramedics, I noticed some unfamiliar woman's shoes placed at the entrance. You see, my name is Eleanor, and I work as a manager in a company. I have lived a life solely focused on work until now, but I got married 6 months ago and now live with my husband, Owen. My husband and I are 5 years apart, and I'm the older wife. Our paths crossed 8 years ago. He came to my workplace as a salesperson for a job magazine, eager to make a sales pitch. I still vividly remember that moment. As a recent graduate, he had a nervous expression on his face as he dived into the sales pitch. My husband, who had recently become independent from his senior colleagues, was unsure of whom to approach and appeared flustered at the reception desk. And it happened that I was coincidentally there. I returned from a slightly late lunch to find my husband at the reception desk. "Is there something I can help you with?" Unable to get a response from him at the reception desk and sensing his suspicious behavior, I approached him.
I came about the job magazine.
Oh, I see. Did your contact person change?
Huh?
My husband looked bewildered. Being a newcomer, he was eager to knock on the doors of this company. However, job magazine contracts are usually handled by the headquarters of major companies. Unaware of this, he was determined to secure a major contract. Unfortunately, he ended up coming to the company where I work, which is a subcontractor. When I explained this to him, his face turned beet red.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, not at all. I believe that kind of enthusiasm is really important in your work, you know. Good luck with everything.
Thank you very much.
At that moment, I found my husband so fresh and adorable, or so I thought. But there was no romantic feelings involved. I simply thought he was cute as a newcomer. So I completely forgot about this exchange at the time. Fate is an unpredictable thing. It honestly slipped my mind how much time had passed since then, but my husband and I unexpectedly ran into each other at a store near the company. Yes, I had forgotten about the interaction with my husband at that time.
I appreciate your help back then.
Huh?
At your company's reception.
Oh, right. How have things been since then?
Yes, there are still many difficult things, but I'm somehow managing and doing my best.
We engaged in casual conversation and then headed home, but we continued to run into each other several times at that convenience store. We exchanged contact information, and I was probably the first one to become aware of each other as potential romantic interests. I really wanted to support him in his clumsy but hard work. However, what still concerned me was the fact that he was 5 years younger. Although I had feelings for him, I couldn't clearly express those feelings. It was at that moment when he asked me to be in a relationship, and I gladly accepted without any hesitation. Since then, we have been dating for a long time, and it has brought us to the present. I felt happy to have been able to marry the person I loved so much. However, 4 months after our marriage, he decided to quit the job he had been working so hard in as a salesperson for the job magazine. Of course, he consulted with me before making the decision to resign.
No matter how hard you work as a subcontractor, you can never see a clear future.
While he works as a salesperson for the job magazine, he is not an employee of the company that publishes the magazine. He is actually an employee of a company approved to conduct businesses as a subcontractor for the major company. I knew from the beginning of our relationship that he was a subcontractor. However, it was after we got married that he started expressing these concerns.
In that aspect, Eleanor, you're in a better position. You have a stable job as a proper employee.
I find myself at a loss for words during moments like these. He's a full-time employee of the company, and I'm sure he's in no different position than I am.
Since the change in department heads, I'm really struggling. The quotas have become more demanding, and lately I haven't been able to meet them. I'm constantly getting scolded by the department head.
I see. What if you try a different approach?
That's what the department head also mentioned. So you're still a manager, Eleanor. Did you forget how it feels to be in a lower position?
In the end, no matter what I say, it doesn't seem to reach my husband, who has fallen into a negative mindset. Lately, my husband has been like this all the time. Honestly, I was tired of this atmosphere.
I want to quit my job.
I couldn't affirm or deny those words. I thought that if it meant being liberated from this negative period, it might be worth considering and accepting.
From now on, I'm thinking of being a full-time house husband. Eleanor, you enjoy your job, don't you? I'll put more effort into taking care of the household tasks in return.
However, there were some words he said that I found hard to understand. Can someone who has never really done household chores suddenly be able to handle them? It seemed like he was underestimating the work involved in managing the household. Certainly, there is a difference between working outside the home and taking care of the household. But managing the household encompasses providing food, clothing, and shelter, and it's a demanding job. I honestly struggle with household chores, and I have deep respect for those who can smoothly handle them. I wonder if he can handle all of that. It's a significant doubt. Household chores. Have you ever done them before? Oh, and you were living with your parents until you married me, right? Besides, even after we got married, I was the one doing the household chores, right?
I don't mind. It's just household chores.
Just household chores? Those words really bothered me. Just? It's not something that simple.
It's okay. Being a full-time house husband is just the right kind of job for me.
I can't help but feel that my husband's remarks are belittling the role of a house husband. It didn't sit well with me. We owe our ability to live our lives to this point to the foundation provided by our parents. In my family, specifically, my father worked outside the home to earn a living while my mother took care of the household. It was the collaboration of my parents that made me who I am today. Both are important jobs that must not be lacking. My husband seemed as if he didn't get that.
Eleanor, you think I can't do it, don't you?
That's not true at all. I was just a little unsure. You know, I've never seen you doing household tasks before.
We won't know until we try, right? Are you already doubting me before I even start?
It's not exactly like that. However, I've seen many junior colleagues at work over the years. Most new employees are full of enthusiasm, but as they get more accustomed to their work, some of them start cutting corners. But they lack experience. That's why they sometimes overlook the areas where corners can be cut, which can lead to significant mistakes. And they all have something in common. At first, they are all eager and say, "I'll do my best." "You won't know until you try," is their emotional appeal. I see my husband doing the same thing right in front of me. I can't help but have a bad feeling about it. But this is not a workplace, it's our home. Since it's our family, I wanted to believe in his motivation. So I agreed to my husband resigning from his job under the condition that he takes care of the household. For the past week, my husband has been working hard, despite being unfamiliar with it. I can see a bit of dust in the corners, but I won't point it out. Since he's making an effort, I believe it's the time to encourage and support him. In the midst of all this, my husband mentioned wanting to attend cooking classes.
I want to improve my cooking skills and treat you to delicious meals, Eleanor.
Thank you. Do your best. I agreed without hesitation. I was happy to see his enthusiasm. I believe that this expense should be spent without hesitation. However, after attending cooking classes for 3 weeks, he started expressing complaints. Even when I come home tired from work, all that's prepared on the table is convenience store lunches. Hey, what have you been doing during the day? I couldn't stay silent anymore after a week of continuous convenience store meals.
I've been studying cooking.
I don't see any results though.
I'm tired, so there's nothing I can do about it.
I understand. Working can be tiring sometimes. Are you tired for a whole week? If it were just a few days, it would be understandable, but this seems like a complete mess.
You don't understand anything, Eleanor. You have no idea how difficult household chores are.
I do understand. That's why I've been expressing my gratitude all along.
But it's actually me who's doing it. You're all talk, Eleanor.
I felt incredibly angry. What was the point of that discussion we had? Well then, don't do the housework anymore.
Huh?
Owen's eyes are sparkling with excitement. He really reminds me of those juniors at the company who only talk big.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because you can't do it, right?
I guess it's not for me. Trying it out made me realize that.
Oh well, in that case, I'll take care of the housework. You should focus on finding a job.
Huh? Why?
Why? I should be the one asking that question. How can you ask why in this situation? You abandoned the housework, so you're unemployed, right? I don't intend to support an unemployed person. Please find a job and make good use of your time. Owen fell silent for a while and then looked at me with wide eyes.
Let's have a child.
Huh?
I'll take care of the child.
Oh, really? Do you even like children? By the way, do you have any qualifications related to education?
No, I don't.
Oh, I see. Well, even without qualifications, you can still work. If you want to, you can try looking for a job.
No, not like that. It's about raising a child. It'll be our child, you know?
What?
Let's have a child. Then it won't be a problem if I stay at home, right?
My affection for him, which had barely held on, was shattered by his words. To this person, it's impossible. Let's get a divorce.
What? Why?
Why did you marry me in the first place? Before marrying me, you were working, putting in so much effort. And yet, right after we got married, you quit your job and said you would do the household chores. I accepted that and have been watching over you, but it didn't last. If being married to me is moving you in a negative direction, that's not a good thing. Besides, I want you to keep your promises. I've been supporting you in my own way all this time. But I'm not a saint. I don't intend to support someone who's fully dependent on me. His expression changed drastically.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I won't rely on you anymore. I'll take care of the household chores properly. Please, don't leave me.
Seeing my husband crying in front of me, my resolve remained unchanged. Even though he was sobbing, I knew that no real solution would come from comforting him now. So I suggested that we have a proper discussion at a later time. I actually wanted to have the discussion right away, but I had a business trip the next day and didn't have the time for a meaningful conversation. Although I felt reluctant to leave, I finished preparing for the business trip. The next morning when I woke up, breakfast was prepared. My husband kept apologizing, saying, "I'm sorry," multiple times. "Thank you for breakfast, it's delicious."
Yeah, I'm glad. When will you be back?
Maybe in 3 days.
Oh, I see. I'll take care of things at home properly. Take care on your business trip, okay?
Yeah, thank you. In front of me is a husband who seems completely heartbroken. It would be a lie to say that my heart is not swayed by his appearance. However, no matter how complicated my personal life may be, I won't let it affect my work. I mentally switched gears and headed to my business trip. I had planned to have meetings spread out over 3 days, but one of the client's representative fell ill, so the meetings were canceled on the second day. I ended up coming back home 1 day early. I thought about contacting my husband to let him know about the change in plans, but considering the tension between us, I decided to just inform him that the schedule had changed. I was worried that it would further unsettle him. With that in mind, I purchased a ready-made meal and returned home. "I'm back!" There was no response when I called out at the entrance. The house was completely dark. Maybe he's not home. I walked towards the living room without turning on the lights, and as I opened the door to the living room, there was a loud noise. What? I quickly turned on the lights to find my husband wearing only his underwear collapsed on the floor. "Hey, Owen?" It was my first experience of feeling completely blank in my mind. I hurriedly approached the living room. What should I do? An ambulance. I quickly called an ambulance. While waiting for them to arrive, I kept calling my husband's name desperately, but he remained unconscious. Afterwards, the paramedics arrived and tried to communicate with my husband, but there was no response.
Please accompany us.
Understood. I was in a state of panic. Oh, I dropped a few side dishes there. Please be careful. I called out to the paramedics to prevent them from slipping on the side dishes I accidentally dropped in a moment of panic, but the scattered side dishes were also at my feet. As I stepped on them and lost my balance, the phone I was holding flew into the air and fell forcefully towards my husband.
Ugh.
Did I just hear a voice? I unintentionally made eye contact with one of the paramedics. I gently peered into my husband's face and realized something. Perhaps the paramedics are thinking the same thing. I apologize.
Huh? Oh.
You can go home now, it's fine.
Ah, I see.
Yes, I'm truly sorry for causing a disturbance.
Oh, no worries. Well then, we'll take our leave.
They lowered my husband from the stretcher and left the house. I saw them off to the front door. Then something caught my eye. I truly felt sorry. I apologized to the paramedics as well, but if there were people who truly needed them while they were tending to my husband, then what my husband did would be a grave offense. I couldn't forgive it from the bottom of my heart. My husband, wearing nothing but his underwear, was lying on the floor. The season was approaching winter. Surely it must be very cold like this. Wake up quickly. Why did you do such a thing? There was no response from my husband. Hello, Mr. Feigned Illness?
Achoo!
You don't sneeze when you're unconscious, right? Wake up already. He seems to have quite the resilience. Ah, that's right. I should dress you in clothes, or you'll be cold. Let me bring some clothes. As I tried to get up and head to my husband's room, something wrapped around my leg.
No!
My husband was desperately grabbing on to my leg. Oh, is the fainting act over?
Absolutely not, because it's no good.
What is it?
Don't come into my room.
Why not?
Sir, it's a surprise. I'm preparing a lot of things for you, Eleanor, when you come back tomorrow. Don't look.
Then it's a surprise for now.
Wait, it's really not allowed.
As my husband hurriedly got up and tried to stop me, the side dishes came in handy. With a swift motion, my husband extended his right leg and accidentally stepped on the side dishes, slamming his body onto the floor.
Ouch.
Ignoring my writhing husband, I forcefully opened the door. Surprise! I already knew. When I saw off the paramedics, there were unfamiliar woman's shoes placed at the entrance. Are you my husband's affair partner?
It's not an affair. We're serious, but...
Oh, even though you're serious, you were instructed to hide, right?
It's to keep me from getting involved.
Is that so? You're careless.
No, she's my sister.
Oh, weren't you an only child? Don't tell such obvious lies. Hey, affair partner, do you want to marry him?
Of course. There's no one else as kind as him.
Oh, I see. That's what you say. Well then, I'll grant you a divorce.
Huh? Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
Wait a minute. I don't want to divorce you, Eleanor.
Wait, Owen? Didn't you say that you wanted a divorce but your wife wouldn't let you? Wasn't that what you said? Isn't it contradictory?
Hold on, just shut up already. You're obviously just a fling for me. I like older women who have their own income. You can't support an easy life like mine. Seriously, just shut up, you idiot.
How cruel! You deceived me.
It's the foolish one who gets deceived.
She is sobbing. Well, there's no room for sympathy, though. That's right, it's the foolish one who gets deceived.
Eleanor, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry about this time. I was lonely and ended up playing around, but you are my true love, Eleanor.
No, I'm also one of those who got deceived by you. So you wanted to marry a financially stable older woman to have an easy life, didn't you?
Huh? Did I say something like that?
Oh no. Don't you remember the insults you hurled at your affair partner? You said them right in front of me. I have also woken up. I will divorce you. Of course, as you are the one at fault, I will seek compensation from you. I don't need someone in my life who pretends to faint to cover up their own affair. There is nothing left to hesitate about.
Wait a minute. If you're gone, how am I supposed to go on living?
Work.
Huh?
Work and take care of yourself on your own.
Wait.
We have nothing more to talk about. We'll involve lawyers from now on. My husband stubbornly refused to leave, but when I contacted my in-laws, they took him away. I later claimed damages from the tearful mistress who left in a hurry. I expected to be met with resistance, but surprisingly she immediately transferred the compensation. She returned to our house with her parents, bowing and apologizing on all fours. Well, she must have believed my husband's lies. Cheating is not commendable, but thanks to her, I'm grateful for having an advantageous position in the divorce proceedings with my husband. If she truly reflects on this matter, I hope she learns from it in the future. About a month after that incident, I divorced my husband. He stubbornly resisted until the end, but my father-in-law silenced him under a reign of fear. He was a foolish man who committed infidelity, but my in-laws are very sincere people. They also managed to defeat him when he greedily demanded a share of the assets. Well, considering we were married for a short time, the issue of asset division doesn't really matter much. It's really insignificant in the grand scheme of things. In the end, my ex-husband handed over $3,000 from his savings as compensation, and we reached a settlement. Afterwards, I heard that he, being unemployed, is assisting my former father-in-law with his occupation as a fisherman. With zero savings and no financial freedom, he is living under the surveillance of my parents-in-law, or so I've heard. Given that, my former father-in-law was determined to instill discipline and had a strong will. I imagine my ex-husband is being treated quite harshly. Meanwhile, I have become somewhat distant from love due to this incident. However, it's frustrating that it's because of him that I ended up like this. If there is another chance someday, I want to seize it without hesitation. After all, life is still long.
My sister-in-law lied to our whole family about her husband's illness, and then her world came crumbling down on her.
My husband was diagnosed with depression. He needs to rest. I need you to rent me your house. Why would I do that? When my husband and I refused, my sister-in-law and her husband took us by surprise. But it seems like their plan backfired. Linda, you got what you deserve. Please, make sure they pay for their crimes. My name is Michaela. I'm a 32-year-old office worker. My husband Aaron and I have been married for 6 years. We have been together since high school and started dating when we were 18 years old, so we've been together for 14 years now. Even after all those years, we're still in love just like we always have been, and we feel very happy every day. After graduating from high school, my husband and I went to the same university. There, he studied business administration and I studied English literature to improve my English skills. We both did well in our studies in university and got good grades, which we used as an advantage to get jobs. After that, I got a job at a small company and started to work very hard and became a certified interpreter while I was working. My husband got a job at a large company and is working very hard. We both worked hard at our jobs and made time for each other. We continued our relationship and got married when I was 26. We actually didn't have a wedding. That's because we were trying to save money. My husband and I have been saving money since before we got married. It was for one goal only. We both dreamed of building our own home. So even after we started working, we lived at each other's parents' houses and saved money until we got married. We got married when we both started advancing in our careers. My husband got a promotion and I got my certification and started working. And even though we started to have more money, we tried to rent cheap apartments as much as possible. We didn't go out to eat except on anniversaries, and we cooked our own meals. We felt that we were making a good living, and more than anything, we were happy knowing that we were saving more and more money. We could see that we were doing the right thing, and we were very happy to visualize that we were moving towards our dream of owning a home. Once we had saved up a certain amount of money, my husband and I started going to real estate agencies and began thinking about getting our own house. I was so happy and content during that time that I felt my dream of owning my own house was becoming more and more realistic. When my husband and I had meals together, we would often talk about the house and we would naturally come up with ideas like, I want this one. Now, 10 years after we both started working, my husband and I have finally decided to build our own home. I couldn't have been happier. It had always been a dream of mine to build my own home since I was in high school, and I told my husband about that when we were just dating. And now, it was finally time for our dream home to come true. I have been excited every day since we started construction for the house. Michaela, you seem to be in a good mood. Really? To tell you the truth, the construction for my house just began. Oh, I see. It's always been your dream, right? Yes, since high school. That's a very long time. No wonder you're so excited. Once the house is complete, please come over. Really? I'd love to. Sarah is my senior, and she is an interpreter and a pretty good one at that. When I was just starting out as an interpreter, she supported me a lot. She's 3 years older than me, but she is so cool in her fashion, her mood, her way of speaking, and her little gestures, and I admire her. She has an aura about her that makes you think you are in a fashionable European town just walking around with her. And when I talk to her in person, I can see she's not trying to pretend to be something she's not, but just living her life as it is. I hope to be a cool woman like Sarah someday. When my dream of owning a home comes true, I'm going to work hard on improving myself. As I was spending my days thinking about these things, my home was finally complete. Wow, it's amazing. The house is just as I wanted it to be. When we arrived at the completed house, we were impressed just by looking at the exterior. And once we got inside, it was amazing. It was exactly what my husband and I had asked for after consulting with the realtor. This is going to be our future home. I'm getting really emotional, you know. We're going to live here together every day and make a lot of memories. I'm excited just thinking about it. We'll probably have a baby and we can play together in the yard. A boy or a girl? I'd like a boy. I want to play catch with him. I want a girl. I want to go shopping and go to cafes with her. My husband and I were thrilled and excited the whole time, and we had a lot of fun talking about the future. After that, we started living in our own house. Every morning when I wake up, I'm so happy knowing that I get to live in my own home. The kitchen is very easy to use. I enjoy cooking every day. I naturally wanted to try out different recipes, and my cooking skills improved as I went along. We also invited our respective families to the house. When my parents arrived, they were both moved into tears. I'm so happy for you both. I'm glad you were finally able to fulfill your dream. Mom, Dad, don't cry. There is no way a proud parent would not cry during this moment. I was happy that my parents were happy to see that I was so excited. And when my in-laws come over, they were all so touched. It was really nice. You can tell they talked it over and made the house exactly the way you wanted it. That's what my in-laws were saying. Oh, look at the kitchen! I wish I could use it. That's what my sister-in-law exclaims. She's 2 years older than my husband and I, but she is a bit mentally young and childish. And she was more excited than others. It's amazing, amazing, amazing! You and your family are going to live in a house like this? I mean, we already live in it. We built this house, my husband told her. But my sister-in-law was excited as ever, looking around saying, "Oh, I'm so jealous." And there was one more person who was excited. That person was my sister-in-law's husband, Tyler. Hey, there's quite a few rooms. The big yard would be perfect for barbecues. It makes me want to live here. That's for sure. My sister-in-law and her husband were joking, of course, but my husband and I were a little taken back by that comment. We didn't want them to say that they wanted to live in our house that we had worked so hard to build. Well, after that, we were all too busy eating and drinking together, so my husband and I decided not to mention it. But then, about a month later, I got a call from my sister-in-law out of the blue. "Hey, Linda, what's wrong?" I rarely receive phone calls from my sister-in-law. What on earth did she want? "The house of yours is wonderful. Will you let me live there for a while?" I was surprised when my sister-in-law called me and suddenly said something like that. What do you mean by that? First of all, I didn't understand what she meant. Is she asking to move in with us? My husband has depression. Oh, really? I'm so sorry to hear that. It's been hard, very hard. He can't go to work anymore. He's been resting in the room right now. But he seems to be in a lot of pain. I see. So please, he needs some rest, so let me rent this house. Why would I do that? I'm sorry that Tyler's depressed, but I can't just rent you our house. Wow, you're terrible. You're supposed to be nice to sick people, aren't you? I mean, even so. Put Aaron on the phone. He's not back from work yet, but I think he feels the same way. We won't let you rent our house. That's your opinion, right? Aaron cares about his big sister, so he'll definitely rent it out to me. Where on earth does my sister-in-law's absolute confidence come from? I ended the call by saying I'll talk to my husband because I was afraid she would pester me endlessly with requests. I told this to my husband when he came home from work and he was stunned. Of course I won't allow that. What is Linda thinking? My husband said that and called Linda himself, but she still wouldn't back down. Do you not have a shred of kindness in your heart? Tyler is in so much pain. You're a heartless person. Even I could hear my sister-in-law's screams through the phone. My husband, not wanting to beck and call, coldly dismissed her, saying it doesn't matter what you say to me. But my sister-in-law hung up the phone, saying she'd go talk to him in person next time. I was on speaker, so I heard what my sister-in-law said too. I feel really dumbfounded. What in the world is she going to do when she comes over here? And a few days later, my sister-in-law and her husband really came to our house. Please, please, please just give us the house. Tyler is in a lot of pain. Tyler looked pale, much different from the last time he came to visit us. I still can't rent you the house, but what the hell happened? My husband asked, looking tired. He's actually harassed by his boss. It's driving him crazy. I'm sorry to hear that. Right, so please. No, that's crazy, right? What? Why do you need to rent our house? Because like I said, Tyler needs to rest. It's going to feel more like a vacation home in this new house. In this house that you've been living in, right? It'll lift up his spirits and help with the depression. Huh? My husband sounded annoyed. My husband and I feel the same way. My sister-in-law's logic is far-fetched and ludicrous. She's probably trying to make it look like they wanted to live when they first came here. But neither my husband nor I deceived such an easy-to-see lie. I wouldn't rent the house no matter what you say. You say he has depression, but you have a medical certificate or something. Has he reported this to the company? There are procedures to get medical benefits and all that. Did you report to the company that he was being harassed by his boss in the first place? What's the company doing about this? I don't trust someone who says they're suffering from depression when they don't even explain those details at all. My sister-in-law and her husband seemed to panic when my husband spoke up. Hey, don't say those things all at once. Tyler and I have never been in a situation like this before. Anyway, it's true, he's depressed. Just let us rent the house. No means no, just give up. When my sister-in-law tried to force us to rent the house to them, my husband stubbornly refused. When we wouldn't budge, even after she raised her voice in anger, my sister-in-law finally cursed at us for being bastards and took her husband home. We were so tired. I doubt he's depressed if they're acting this way. I'm really sorry for the trouble she put you through. I'm so glad you said no. This is our home and we won't let anyone take it away. My sister-in-law and her husband were a pain in the ass. But it was still nice to know that my husband and I had a strong bond. But then something unexpected happened. When my husband and I refused, my sister-in-law and her husband took a surprising step. What? You gave Michaela and Tyler money? When my husband received a phone call from my parents-in-law, we learned a shocking truth. It seems that my sister-in-law and her husband told my parents-in-law that Tyler was suffering from depression, and my parents-in-law gave them money. Why did you do that? Because I feel sorry for them. In times like this, we should support each other as a family. My parents-in-law seemed to completely believe my sister-in-law and her husband's story, and no matter what my husband said, it was all they did for them. My parents-in-law has been giving them money to my sister-in-law and her husband frequently since then. I can't believe they're taking advantage of my in-laws like this. What they're gonna do is nothing but fraud. My husband and I couldn't be more disgusted with my sister-in-law and her husband. But we have no proof that Tyler is not depressed, so we wonder what to do. Then, one day something unexpected happened. Sarah, you don't look so well. Yeah, I had a little too much to drink last night. I had a drinking party with my classmates from college. I see. Your classmates must be a lot of cool and fashionable people. No, they're not. They're all old men and women. Well, I can't tell that them, though. Laughing, Sarah showed me a photo that she took at that party yesterday. Huh? I was shocked when I saw the photo, but could that man in the suit be... Oh, Tyler? Do you know him? Well, yeah. I see. Did Tyler seem to be doing well to you? Huh? Yeah, he was very energetic. He's been wearing expensive watches and recently bought a car. A watch and a car? I felt anger welling up inside of me. Michaela? The anger must have been showing on my face, and Sarah looked at me with concern. I'm sorry. What happened? Does it have to do with Tyler? To tell you the truth, I told Sarah everything. There's no way he has depression. He said yesterday he was covering for his subordinate at work when he made a mistake. He's working like a normal person. So he was lying after all. That's disgusting. He was using the money he got from his wife's parents to live lavishly, right? When Sarah found out the truth, she got very angry with him. She promised to explain to my in-laws with me and my husband. Is that true? I was drinking with Tyler and I heard him correctly. So I don't think he's sick. He's going to work as usual, and with the money you guys gave him, he and his wife are spending it on luxuries. I told you, my sister has been lying to you guys. My in-laws were shocked to learn the truth. I'm going to call Linda and her husband right now. My father-in-law said that and called my sister-in-law. And an hour later, my sister-in-law and her husband arrived. Dad, why'd you call me here all of a sudden? My sister-in-law was instantly disgusted when she noticed me and my husband. Why are you here, Aaron? I'm here because it's important for the family. Huh? What are you talking about? At that moment, Tyler came up behind my sister-in-law and pretended to be weak. But the moment he saw Sarah's face, Tyler froze in place. Hello, Tyler. Why are you here? I explained to Tyler, who was turning pale. She's my senior at work. I had no idea that you and Sarah went to college together. She told me that you guys saw each other at a party the other night, and she told me all about it. Tyler's face is getting paler and paler. Linda, you lied to us about Tyler being depressed. What are you talking about, Dad? Tyler is really depressed and he can't go to work right now. Lying to all of us like that won't help you now. We know that Tyler was covering for his coworkers' mistakes and that he's been taken aback by his most recent work accomplishments. My sister-in-law finally understood what was going on. Mom, Dad, this isn't what it looks like. Then what is it? You deceived us. No, what do you mean depression? What do you mean unable to work? Have you ever given the slightest thought to those who are truly suffering from the disease? It's the end of you as a human being to tell such a lousy lie for the sake of your own luxury. My sister-in-law and husband were completely freaked out, and my father-in-law yelled at them so angrily. I'm going to ask you to return the money I've given you. What? That's impossible. I already spent it. And you'll have to work or sell whatever you bought to pay us. If you don't pay us, we'll report it to the police. The police? Oh, no! The couple slumped down on the floor, looking pale in relation to the situation. Afterwards, Linda and Tyler ended up selling their car, watch, and other things to pay back my parents-in-law. However, they still didn't have enough money, so Linda, who used to be a housewife, is now working part-time to pay back the money. Sarah told the other university classmates about the incident, and even people at Tyler's workplace found out, so it began to embarrass him. The manager and the head of the department sarcastically said to him, "You seem to think that everything is power harassment." My sister-in-law and her husband tried to deceive us, and my parents-in-law with terrible lies, but as a result, they had to pay the price. Please, my life is so hard, I can't stand it. Can you believe me just this one time? One day, Linda and Tyler came to our house and got down on their knees and asked us to help them, but there's no way we were going to help them. Linda, you got what you deserve. Please, make sure they pay for their crimes. Don't ever get involved with us again. If you ever come back here, we'll call the police. After we said that, my sister-in-law and her husband ran away from our home quickly. I don't know how they've been doing since then, but I guess we can rest easy, know that they stopped coming. They caused us a lot of trouble, but I'm glad it's settled for now. My husband and I were relieved to be back in our own home and enjoying our life again. Sarah, thank you so much for everything. It's fine. I'm rather sorry I didn't realize that my lovely junior was in trouble. As an apology for the trouble my classmate has caused you, let's go out for a drink together today. I'll pay. All right. Thank you. I'll follow you for the rest of my life. I can't thank Sarah enough for giving me the opportunity to expose my sister-in-law and her husband's wickedness. I'd like to buy her a drink, but I'm going to treat her to a delicious home-cooked meal the next time I invite her over. Please, tell me another interesting overseas story today. Sure. Today I'm going to tell everyone something that happened in Brazil with a young man who worked in an ice cream shop. I can't believe that Linda lied about her husband's illness and stole money from her parents. What a scammer. And I can't believe she thought Michaela and Aaron would allow them to live at their home. I'm glad Michaela and her family were able to protect their house from Linda.
I inherited $790,000. Husband and Mill demanded my money. I told them I'm actually single. Surprise twist.
My name is Kate, and I'm 40 years old. I've been married to my husband Mason for 10 years. He's the same age as me and was a colleague at work. We're now at different branches, but we used to be in the same department. My husband is a responsible person who is admired by his subordinates. He's a bit vain and doesn't like to show his weaknesses to others. He was a confident, flashy, and masculine man. His work performance was highly regarded by his superiors, and he was expected to be promoted without any problems. In contrast, I'm a rather low-key and inconspicuous type. I was honestly surprised when he passionately pursued me, as we have opposite personalities. After dating for 2 years, he proposed to me with a large bouquet of roses. I had never been so loved by a man before, so I accepted his proposal immediately. I couldn't wait to start our wonderful life together. However, what awaited us was living with my in-laws. There was no prior discussion, and I wanted to refuse, but my husband was adamant about living with them. "My parents are good people, so everything will be fine," he said, and he passionately explained how much they were looking forward to living with me, so I couldn't refuse. We've been living with his parents in their home for the past 10 years. Life there was unimaginable when we first got married. "Kate, you've forgotten to clean the entrance again." My mother-in-law would start nagging as I finished making breakfast for everyone. This ritual happens every day. "I'm sorry," I would say, but she would reply, "Just apologizing won't do. If you understand, go and do it right away." Even though I had to go to work, I was treated like a servant from morning. For the past 10 years living with my in-laws, I've been forced to wake up at 5 a.m. to cook breakfast and clean. My mother-in-law, a housewife, should have time to do housework herself, but she doesn't. I rush through the morning chores, go to work, come home, and immediately start cooking dinner. By the time I go to bed, I'm so exhausted that I practically pass out. This has been going on for so long that I've become weak and often feel unwell. The cause is probably stress. "Do the cleaning properly. I don't want the neighbors to think we're neglecting it," my mother-in-law would say as she relaxed in the living room eating the breakfast I made. "If you don't finish quickly, you'll be late for work," she would add. Even with this going on, my husband never once stood up for me. My father-in-law would hide behind his newspaper and pretend not to see. Since moving in with my in-laws, I've been subjected to terrible mistreatment. The stress has caused my weight to drop drastically, and I now look unhealthy. My period stopped due to my sudden weight loss, and I couldn't get pregnant. Despite being the cause of this, my mother-in-law continued to blame me. Before getting married, I cared about how I looked and was healthy. Now there's no trace of that. The stress from the mistreatment and the shock of seeing my reflection in the mirror make me feel depressed. I had become completely submissive to my mother-in-law. I lost all motivation and couldn't bring myself to leave the house. It was during that time that I received news of my father's death. He had suddenly passed away in an accident. I hadn't been back to my parents' home in a long time because my mother-in-law and husband would criticize me for wanting to go. I deeply regretted not visiting more when I heard that my father had passed away. My parents' home is about an hour's drive from my in-laws' house, so it's not too far away. I asked them if they would come to my father's funeral. "My father's funeral is happening, so..." "Well, we won't be going. Just have your family there, okay?" The two of them cut me off before I could finish speaking. I never thought that they could be so heartless. I simply replied, "I understand," as I held my trembling shoulders from anger and sadness. Many people attended my father's funeral. He was self-employed and had connections with a lot of people. Everyone who came to the funeral shed tears, showing how much my father was loved. "Kate, it's been a while. You've lost so much weight. What happened?" My mother, who I hadn't seen in a long time, was surprised at my gaunt appearance. "Oh, it's nothing." "You're not sick, are you? I can't bear to lose you too." My mother, who had just lost her husband, thought I had some disease and started crying. "I'm not sick, Mom. I'm fine. Don't worry." I calmed my mother down and we took a break in the waiting room. "Well, if you're not sick, what is it?" I recalled my interactions with my mother-in-law and husband. Even when they learned that my father had passed away, they didn't say a single thing to comfort me. Anger bubbled up inside me, and I decided to tell my mother about my life with my in-laws. "Actually, I've been experiencing what you might call bride bullying. I'm just so tired." As I looked down while speaking, she looked at me with a worried expression. "I'm glad you're not sick, but I can't relax at all. Is that the reason you haven't been visiting us much?" I nodded, and my mother handed me a piece of paper. "Read it for yourself and think carefully about what to do next." The paper she gave me was my father's will. My meticulous father had left a will in case something happened. It included information about inheritance as well. I get a $790,000 inheritance? That's what it says. You can decide how to use it. I was shocked by the large amount. At the same time, I had hope that I could end the living situation with my in-laws. With this, I can build a house and leave my in-laws' home right away. My life seemed to be getting better thanks to the inheritance my father left me. I went home to my in-laws' house and did housework as usual. On days when I have plans, the house gets messier than usual. It can't be helped since there's no one to clean. As I silently did housework, I thought about the $790K I had inherited from my father. I had resentment towards my mother-in-law, but I still wanted to be with my husband. I decided to be honest about the large inheritance and proposed that we leave my in-laws' house. "I have something to talk about." I began speaking with my husband after my in-laws had gone to bed and we were alone. "Yeah, so it's about my dad. It turns out I'm going to inherit his estate." "Oh, really? How much?" "Well, it's $790K. When I told him the amount, my husband looked dumbfounded as if he couldn't believe the figure. "What? Are you serious?" "Yes, $790,000. When he understood what I had said, he was delighted and said, "Wow, he left that much for you? That's so generous." So, about what to do with the money? Since he was in a good mood, I decided to get to the main point. But before I could speak, he said something outrageous. "We need to transfer that money to my mom's bank account right away." I didn't understand what he was saying. It was so absurd that I thought he was joking. "Wait, why? I inherited it, so that's not right." As I laughed and spoke, he slammed his hand on the table. "What kind of nonsense are you talking about? A wife's money belongs to her mother-in-law." He probably didn't even realize he was saying something ridiculous. Looking into his serious eyes, I felt frightened. "I'm sorry. I don't quite understand what you're saying. All I wanted was to talk about building a house for the two of us." But he wouldn't let me and tried to make my inheritance into his mother's property. That night, I was so shocked that I couldn't sleep. The next morning, as I was preparing breakfast, my husband and mother-in-law approached me with angry expressions. "So Kate, I heard that you inherited $790,000 but said you wouldn't give it to me. What are you thinking?" She had already heard about the inheritance from my husband. "But I'm the one who inherited it." "Stop arguing and transfer it to my mom's account right now." "A wife's money is the family's money, right?" The two of them seemed determined to get their hands on the inheritance by force. No matter how much I resisted, I was only blamed. Thinking that resistance was futile, I fell silent and my husband showed me a piece of paper. You're getting carried away just because you got your hands on some money. What's with the attitude? I'm the one supporting you. If you don't change your mind, it's divorce. The paper was a divorce form. I've already signed it. Take this and go back to your parents' house. If you apologize properly, I might not go through with the divorce. I received the divorce form with my husband's section completely filled out. As I stared at the divorce form, my memories came flooding back. I had never been supported in this house. I paid the same amount of living expenses as my husband, and all the housework was my responsibility. I had never been taken care of. Yet, the two of them always looked down on me. In the end, they even tried to take my father's money. If I stayed here, I might give in to the pressure from the two of them and hand over the inheritance. But this money was what my father had left for me. I thought it was rather an opportunity to be told to go back to my parents' house. Having the filled-out divorce form in hand, I now had the power to make decisions for the future. I swore in my heart that I would never give up my father's inheritance and made a certain decision. That day after work, I went back to my parents' house. I'm home. Welcome back, sweetie. I had a feeling you'd be coming home soon. My mother said with a gentle smile as she warmly welcomed me, worn out from my experiences. The table was set with her home-cooked dishes. I couldn't remember the last time I had eaten a meal made by someone else. As I took a bite of the warm meal, I was moved to tears by how good it all tasted. Did you tell Mason about the inheritance? Yes, and that's when things got complicated. I told my mother everything that my husband and mother-in-law had said. She was stunned by the shocking content. The inheritance is yours, and it's up to you to decide how to live your life from now on. As tears streamed down my face, she gently put her arm around my shoulder. After staying at my mother's house for a week, I decided to return to my in-laws' home. Well, I'm going now. Take care. I was no longer afraid to return to that house. With a refreshed mindset, I headed back to my in-laws' home. Finally back, huh? Have you reflected on your actions? My husband and mother-in-law were waiting for me with their arms crossed. Yes, I'm sorry. Please let me live in this house again. I uttered an apology that was only skin deep. Hearing this, my mother-in-law smirked. Then hurry up and hand over the inheritance. Actually, the inheritance procedures are taking longer than expected. It's still not with me. It's a complicated process, so it'll probably take another half a year or more. It takes that long? Well, that's fine. They seemed satisfied, thinking that I would obediently hand over the inheritance. But they continued to nag me about staying at my mother's house for a week. The house is a mess because you didn't do your duties as a wife. Clean it up quickly. My in-laws' home was a mess after just a week, and it was unsanitary. It was actually impressive to make it so filthy in such a short amount of time. Yes, the old me would have been devastated to see the house in this state. But now, things were different. I didn't care about being bullied by my mother-in-law or being forced to do tough housework. I did the housework as ordered by her. 10 months later, it was my mother-in-law's birthday. Well, we're going now. Make sure to keep the house clean. She always went on a trip for her birthday, and of course, they never took me. By the way, have you received the inheritance yet? It's supposed to arrive today. Well, isn't that perfect? That $790K is a present for my mom. Make sure to transfer it to her account before we return. There was no way the inheritance would conveniently arrive on her birthday. My husband couldn't see through my lie. I didn't respond, but simply saw them off with a smile saying, "Take care and have a safe trip." Once they were out of sight, I began to put my plan into action. I had been waiting for this day for a long time. They would surely be surprised when they returned from their trip, but it was no longer my concern. I quickly packed my belongings and left my in-laws' house. Wow, this is amazing! I was moving my belongings into my new home. In fact, I had built a house with my father's inheritance. I'm so happy I get to live in such a beautiful house. I had decided to invite my mother and live together. I am truly happy that I don't have to be bothered by them anymore. I sank into the soft sofa and felt content. Today is a celebration of our new home with my mother. We invited a chef to our home and spent a luxurious day. The next evening, I received a phone call from my husband. "Hey, what's going on?" He couldn't understand what was happening since all my things were gone when they returned home. "I won't be coming back, so goodbye." I tried to hang up since I didn't want to talk to him anymore, but I could hear my mother-in-law raising her voice on the other side of the phone. "What the hell do you think you're doing? Where are you now?" I can't answer that. "You told me to clean the house, so I put my things away." That's not funny. Besides, you haven't transferred the inheritance yet. How many times do I have to say that a daughter-in-law's money is mine? Huh? I'm single, you know. When I answered that way, my screaming mother-in-law suddenly fell silent. Single? Well, I'm actually divorced. I submitted the divorce papers Mason gave me. We're strangers now. Goodbye. I said that and hung up the phone. Imagining the dumbfounded mother-in-law on the other end, I could not stop laughing. My heart felt so light now that I had nothing to do with that family. After that, my ex-husband called me many times. When I had time, I would purposely answer the phone and let the abusive words from my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law flow. I recorded those calls from beginning to end. I decided to consult the police with those recordings. It's not uncommon for cases of harassment from an ex-husband. We'll issue a warning before it becomes dangerous. Fortunately, the police responded quickly and went to my former in-law's house to issue a warning. For my image-conscious former in-laws, having the police come was damaging enough. Plus, a subordinate of my ex-husband who lived nearby saw the police coming. Since my ex was a prominent figure in the company, the rumor spread quickly. Furthermore, his subordinates and colleagues who didn't like him started to exaggerate the story and spread bad rumors about him. Eventually, the rumor reached the department I belonged to. So I heard the police came? I'm divorced now, so I don't know much about it. What? You're divorced? Yeah, the bullying from my mother-in-law and my husband's abusive words were too much. I spoke in a slightly louder voice so that those around me could hear. The gossip-loving employees heard this and spread the rumor even further. It didn't take long for my ex-husband's boss to hear about it. You've got quite a lot of bad rumors going around. What are you talking about? I hate men who can't cherish their wives. And with such bad rumors going around, our reputation suffers too. So I decided to have you transferred. The transfer order given to my ex-husband was a harsh one. This place is... It was the branch office in the region with the worst performance. The area was called a landlocked island as there was no entertainment or anything of that sort around. You understand what being sent here means, right? Everything he had built up until now had crumbled, and there would be no chance of promotion in the future. He accepted the transfer order and moved to the countryside without being able to refuse. As for my ex-mother-in-law, she must have been shocked by her son's lowered reputation and the fact that they could no longer live together. She became a complete shut-in and eventually developed depression. It seems she also had dementia, as she frequently caused disturbances at home. My ex-father-in-law desperately took care of his deteriorated wife. Even if not related by blood, she is still an important family member. It was only natural that the ex-in-laws faced the consequences of their continuous harassment towards me. Now, my mother and I are living happily together. We even started gardening in our spacious yard. If I were still in that house, I would never have found such a wonderful hobby. Having a hobby has invigorated me. My body, which was once worn out due to stress, is now healthy. I'm very happy to have cut ties with my ex-in-law's family.